Let's talk to Jamie Jenkins, who's with us now. He's, of course, an independent statistician. He's got some stats for us on the Queen. Jamie, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. I was going to see Sir Mike Graham come through.
Well, listen, you never know. You never know. Services to winding people up. Who could say? I love the look. What do you got on there?
Yeah, well, it's a cycling top, Mike. It's the only British thing I had was a cycling top. And I know you don't like cycling.
I'll let you off, as long as you don't wear the helmet.
No, I'll keep the helmet off, Mike. I tell you what, listening to Rupert there just now, we just had the runners confirmed for the Derby on Saturday. And there's actually a runner in the Derby. It's 8-1, trained by Aidan O'Brien over in Ireland. And it's called Changing of the Guard. So obviously we're keeping the colour on at the moment. It's a bit of a topical one. So
that's not a bad shout, that. You know, you get everything on this show. You even get the odd betting tip. So thank you for that. Give us a few stats on Her Majesty and why she is such a remarkable woman.
Well, yeah, Mike. So obviously the Queen's been there all our lifetimes, and if you look at some facts and figures, so in 2015, it was September the 9th there, she became the longest reigning monarch in British history. Now that surpassed the reign of her kind of great-great-grandmother, Queen Victoria, so a big one there. You know, a lot of people want England to try and win the World Cup in Qatar this year, and she actually handed the trophy over to Bobby Moore in 1966. There's going to be very few England fans watching the World Cup who will be around at the time when she was giving that one up. And that World Cup itself, Mike, was the most watched ever British television audience of 32 million people. You know, so she's been around a while. There's been a Trooping of the Colour now parade every single year, which is what you've got in the background, every single year, apart from 1955, Mike. Now, and the reason there wasn't one in 1955 was due to a railway strike. So obviously the union got involved there in 1955. And another one as well. She had 14 prime ministers, obviously her first, Winston Churchill. And when 2017, when obviously the late Duke of Edinburgh was still around, celebrated the kind of platinum wedding anniversary in 2017, the first reigning monarch ever to do so. So, you know, there's loads more facts and figures we could throw in, Mike. It just shows the length of service the Queen has given us.
Well, this is it. I mean, her life story is kind of the story of modern Britain, really, isn't it? Because from 1952 until now, I mean, obviously that was the post-war period. It was when we moved into the sort of the new industrial revolution, if you like, with, you know, what old Harold Wilson used to call the white heat of technology. Car production, you know, everybody getting a washing machine, everybody getting a telephone, everybody getting a television. It sounds mad to talk about that now, where people are literally walking around with computers that are more efficient now than the NASA computers that sent men to the moon.
You know, indeed, Mike, she's been the one constant that we've had in society for such a long time. Even when the landing on the moon happened, there was a kind of an audio clip handed over, and I think from the Queen to take to the moon as well, you know. And these days, Mike, you can't even get a flight out of the country for most people. You can get to the moon in those days.
That's right. So, well, we will be talking about that a little bit later on. Let's talk a little bit about Wales and the celebrations today, because I don't know whether you know if Mark Drakeford is in London or whether he's doing anything to celebrate this particular day. Or I was saying earlier, Nicola Sturgeon and Drakeford surely should be in London, but I suspect they're not.
I'm not sure where he is, Mark Drakeford is, Mike, and it was a couple of weeks back. They actually were giving out free books for the Queen's Jubilee across the kind of the country for school children. And Scotland and Wales banned the books. And when I say banned, what they did is they opted out of not having them sent direct to the kind of the schools, and they were translated into Welsh for Welsh schools. But the Welsh government took offence to some of the kind of the Anglicanism, kind of the Anglo side of things in there. So schools in Wales had to opt in to get the book. My children didn't get the book, so I'm not quite sure, you know, if they're fully behind the old Jubilee celebrations on Mr Drakeford and then Miss Sturgeon up there in Scotland, Mike.
No, but you, of course, being a patriotic Briton and indeed a proud Welshman as well, I mean, what's the feeling in the country? Because, you know, there's a movement in Wales, isn't there, for a bit of independence, but my suspicion is it's not the majority.
No, it's the minority of people who want independence. We've got the Plaid Cymru Party of Wales kind of propping up the Welsh Labour government at the moment. So you kind of get some murmurs around more of that. They're calling for more things to be devolved, the Welsh Labour, which is their way of trying to go more towards kind of nationalism and independence. The Welsh Labour Party don't support it. It's a different scenario here to Scotland. But I don't even think overall now, Mike, if they had an independence vote in Scotland, they'd go that way at the moment. But I think for me, the bunting is out in the schools, in the streets, sorry, and it's parties down in the school last week for the children, so people are celebrating it. There is a street party planned in my street. I think a couple of people were concerned about closing a little road off, but there's a little party. Somebody popped down for a few drinks tomorrow afternoon and celebrate it.
Indeed, absolutely right. Now, yesterday we talked a lot about the NHS. People surveyed in a YouGov poll said that the best thing about Britain was the NHS. Not in Wales, apparently.
Well, no, Mike, we had a story out a couple of days ago from the Attorney General in Wales, and he was warning, basically, that it might take 7 years, so that's kind of 2030 practically, to get the NHS waiting lists back to 2020 levels. Now, if I was talking to you in 2020, Mike, I would have been saying how bad the NHS waiting levels were in 2020. So, you know, it could be another 7 years to get back to where we were. And I think the problem we've got here, Mike, because people say, oh, where's all the money? Money's being thrown in. And I think it's linked in part to the story you've also been talking about this week, which is kind of the lack of getting GP appointments. Because if you think about it, there's a finite number of healthcare workers in the country. Now, if more and more people go part-time to do some private work on the side, what that means then is that people then can't get seen through the NHS, so they have to go private. So they end up seeing probably the same people that they could have seen in the NHS, because it's kind of like privatisation of healthcare through the back door in a way. And some people now, Mike, don't even know they're going to be on these waiting lists over the last 7 years because they haven't had those scans to identify what they got. And a chap in Wales was saying that he's now on the NHS waiting list, but he had to pay money to have a private scan to try and find out what was actually wrong with him.
Oh, it's shocking, isn't it? Absolutely shocking. It's good to talk to you, Jamie. Thank you very much indeed. Have a great weekend.